All right, looks like we're live. Back again with another trial and error episode. This is number 2. We're getting the flow down for it. I'm Bryon.
I'm Fearless. What's going on, y'all?
Yeah. And today's episode, we're actually going to talk about failures that turn into success stories. And we really feel like this is an important conversation to have because a lot of times that initial failure, people quit after their first time. And so we're trying to tell you on the entrepreneurial journey, on the personal growth journey, that failure doesn't need to be your entire story. So we don't necessarily have an intro yet. I'm still working on that piece of it. But so we'll just jump right into it. So first things first, we're going to start with some case studies. And there's a lot of different entrepreneurs out there that have stories about failure. But the 2 that we stuck on, and I'll explain the reason why I'm picking them. The first one is going to be Colonel Sanders. And a lot of it has to do with Colonel Sanders' age. One of the things I see is a lot of people are using their age as a rationale or excuse not to get started. And so Colonel Sanders was 65 when he hit it big with his business, right? And his early business ventures failed and he was rejected over 1,000 times when he was trying to franchise the chicken recipe. At 65, he started traveling across USA, cooking his chicken for restaurant owners. And eventually he built his brand through that. One of the biggest brands in the world. And so the lesson there is you're never too old to get started. Sometimes those young failures plus your age makes you a really lethal weapon when you finally get to that point when it's time to get moving. So how do you see that? Like the age and experience can be a benefit to you if you're starting out.
Right. One of the things that being a life coach and philosopher, I have to dig deep into a lot of these different topics. Purposely, on the surface, you'll have that story, right? Mm-hmm. But then if you dig a little deeper, you start to understand his motivations, inspirations, disciplines, and this and the other. What the article doesn't say is why he started KFC, right? One of the stories is that he had gotten his first Social Security check. It was so low that instead of him getting pissed off, because he was pissed, he was like, dude, I served my country. I did everything I was supposed to do. And this is what you leave me with. So instead of calling Congress, writing a letter to a senator, he's like, forget, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make something that's my own. He'd already been a major cook. He'd already done all that. So he went through the process of what do I have that I can either give or sell to somebody else that they will like or that they will mess with. He'd been cooking for years. He would have these barbecues and cookouts, and he would always sell his chicken. People used to rant and rave about his chicken. This is in Kentucky during the 1960s, somewhere around there. They were putting interstates through all these rural towns. He lived in one. So they're basically, what is that called when the government takes your property and they...
Eminent domain.
His restaurant. So that's what basically knocked him off. So instead of getting pissed off, he's like, what do I have that I can give or sell that will make me some money? That's what he came up with, was his original herbs and spices. Now, he went to all the places around his town, which was in Kentucky. Everybody said no to him, right? The only thing that he had to eat was a chicken that he would go to these restaurants and prepare. Mm-hmm. The only money he had was the money that he would get from Social Security. So he was driving state to state, peddling chicken, right? Peddling chicken. So he was going to all these different places. Now think about that. There are things that 1,000 different places, right? Most people don't show up to 10 places, let alone 1,000. And you know where he was sleeping at during all of this time? In his car. He slept in his car. He doesn't sleep at a hotel. He didn't complain about it. This dude's in his 60s, sleeping in his car. Now, mind you this, people in their 60s today is not the same as it was people in the 60s back in then. But that's where he slept. He went to place after place, being told no. And here's the thing, the Colonel Sanders, his name was like Harlan Sanders, but they used to call him Colonel because of what he was wearing. That was it. He wasn't a colonel. That's just what they called. He went to all of these different places, peddling chicken at 60-something years old before he got to the 1,000th place. And somebody said, yeah. Now, here's the thing. Within this, and I'll tell you this, a bunch of these different restaurants wanted to buy his original herbs and spices. But he said no. The reason why he said no is because if he sold it to him, then that's it, he don't make no more money.
Right.
If he rented it to him, then he could just get a kickback on every time they sold chicken, every time they used this recipe, they would just give him a little bit of money on top of that.
Right. Well, okay, can I throw something in there? Because I'm going to miss this point if I don't get it. So one of the important concepts, y'all, is the concept of, he said you can rent access to it and charge multiple occasions as opposed to just selling it once. Licensing what you know is a huge business opportunity that comes from experience. People aren't going to pay for a license for something that doesn't work or something that doesn't sell or something that doesn't convert. But if you got the experience to execute and make things happen, you can license out your knowledge without having to sell it. That's what I want to throw out there.
And that's what's up, and that's what he did. But he had the foresight to see that win, because again, you get that one check, and then that's it. Whereas if I get that residual income, there you go. So a lot of times, just hearing these stories is one thing, but really understanding the who, what, where, why, when, how, and if, and applying that to your own life, that's what sets the stage for reading those books to living those books. Mm-hmm. I'll let you take the...
So, and that's what I'm saying in terms of his age. Like, without the experience, without that experience on him, he may not have had the experience to convert this into something successful, or the wisdom or the knowledge. And so a lot of times people they're frustrated where they're at. And that's where we're talking to the audience. You're frustrated where you're at right now. And you feel like you got to escape, but then you're looking like, well, I'm too old to start over. What's that going to look like? A lot of times you're not going to know until you actually try it. And you're going to fail early. But you want to get that failure on you so that you can combine the failure and add that to your reservoir, your database, whatever you want to call it, of experience, so that you can learn how to be successful. So I forgot what the fallacy was, but more or less I was talking about World War II, and so I'm really paraphrasing this. So if I'm incorrect, go ahead and jump in. But World War II, they have these big planes of bombers that fly over Germany and drop bombs, right? And so they're trying to figure out how to reinforce these planes because it was like a slaughterhouse, it was like a bloodbath, right? And then they brought in a bunch of different scientists, and they're looking at the planes that survived, right? And they're like, okay, these are where all the bullet holes are. Why don't reinforce those to armor the plane so that they can make it through? One dude looked around, he said, why don't we reinforce the places where the bullet holes are not? Because these planes made it back to us. So they can get shot in these places and survive. The planes that didn't make it back got hit in the places where the bullet holes are not. Most restaurateurs, when they start out a restaurant, they look at all the successful restaurants and all the people that are having all the success in their restaurant. Being a restaurateur is a very low success rate. I would say that the place you need to look at is talk to the people that failed at opening restaurants and learn where they messed up. That's where the knowledge is. The knowledge is in the failure, because a lot of things can contribute to somebody's success. You don't know. And sometimes you as the individual that is experiencing it, you don't even know all the factors that contributed to your success. You're blind to the luck that you may have experienced along the way. And so that's where we're saying that age and experience As you get older, you could see where the failures came and figure out where the holes are so you can fill those so that you can be successful. But if you only look at successful people and only look at success stories, you're blind to an entire realm of things that could help you be successful because you're learning from where people failed.
Right.
You're learning what not to do as opposed to what to do. And so that the survivor is, I think it's survivorship bias. That's what it is. Where we look at the survivors instead of the ones that didn't survive. We don't look at the failures. We look at the success stories, and the success stories don't always tell everything. And that's where the age and experience comes from, because you get old enough, you start learning that kind of stuff. But young folks, when you talk to a lot of younger folks, what do? They want to get successful at something. They go to YouTube to learn from all the successful people, all the people that had all this amazing success. I'm not saying that they don't have good information, but only looking at the successful people cuts you off because you don't know what they had going. Sometimes your success is a factor of where you are versus what's going on in the world, what's going on in the economy. Do you need to change your environment? You're not going to know that. Maybe they were set up for success better just because of the date that they started. And their vehicle for success looks completely different. So that's all I'm saying. I think we, in society, we get too addicted to the winners that we don't really spend enough time talking about the losers, because the losers make us feel bad. We feel bad. You don't want to lose. And a lot of times that's what it comes down to.
There was this guy in his network marketing company, and one of the things that he would do is they would have these lists of pre-qualified people that wanted to get into some type of business or this and the other, right? And so they would have people go through this call list, and then he would come in and say, how many people did you sign up? So at the time, you could sign people up on the phone without meeting them, this and the other. And they were like, we didn't really sign up that many people. He was like, all right, perfect. Give me that list. And they were like, no, we already called all these people. He said, I know. Give me your list. And then watch me. It was like the same thing as, what was that one show, that movie called The Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah.
Now, they watched it. He was like, wait a minute, so you're telling me if I sell this and the other, you'll give me what? And he's like, oh, okay, now I got this. And so he would recall those same people back, give them a totally different script, and sign them up. Right? And then he told them, this is teachable. I can teach you how to do this. And then he steps out on his own and does the same thing. And so it's marketing before marketing was marketing. And so kind of like picking back, writing off what you said, that proverbial failure or success, that graveyard is full of successes that people just didn't look up under the hood on.
Right.
Look on this side, look on that side, pick it up, look at it a little bit more. It's not that it doesn't work. Maybe it was a person that was pushing it where it didn't work. Or maybe certain components will work under a certain other guise or whatever. But right now it doesn't work. There's a book by a Marshall Goldsmith called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And that book is so important, especially in today's time, because we tend to think that whatever we did to get to this point is what we're going to do to get to that point.
Right.
And unfortunately, because business, technology, the digital footprint, everything changes so much, so frequently, what got you here may not be the same thing that gets you there. Now, if we're talking about relationships on the other end, that might be different. The way that you got your wife, your husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever they may be the same way that you keep them. Right? Now, if you stop doing those things, and you stop showing up when you're supposed to, then you're gonna lose them. Right? So for the most part in that book, The 5 Love Languages, that's what he talks about. He said that I've seen so many people lose their mates because they stopped doing what got them there in the first place. So that same ideology that Marshall Goldsmith was talking about works in the reverse as well.
Right.
And in a relationship, what got you there is for the 80%. It's what you're gonna need to do to keep them going forward.
Right.
Right. Again, like most people, we all have expiration dates in our attitude. We have expiration dates in how we function in life and in any and everything. So that happens. But again, I think that as long as there's some type of communication, you should be okay. As long as you're listening and observing what's going on. We were talking before about Microsoft. The owners or creators of Microsoft are Paul Allen and, as we all affectionately know, Bill Gates.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask you a question, and I'll ask the audience as well. What is the first company that they built that failed?
I feel like I know this one, but I don't know. I feel like I know it. I know it's like a trivia question, and I know it, but I don't have it.
Okay, unfortunately for you, I usually have things that recall.
Mm-hmm.
They created a company called Trafo Data, which basically, it was like a whole entire data of traffic. That's literally what it was, whatever. Didn't do well, buying like shit, but then they just kept moving, they kept going. Another book that really talks about it is there's a book called That Will Never Work, and it's by Mark, M-A-R-C, Randolph. And it's basically the story of Netflix and how Netflix got started. When we think about Netflix, we think about Reed Hastings because he's the CEO, this and the other. But he's not the founder of Netflix. He didn't create Netflix, somebody else created it, which was Mark and his team. Mark used to work at, I believe it's Silicon Valley with Reed. Reed already had money doing other stuff. And Mark would always just pitch him a bunch of different ideas. And when we know about, when we talked about the whole Blockbuster thing, rewinding, then they made a whole bunch of money, charging people to rewind tapes and this and the other. But the story of Netflix was just extremely impressive.
Yeah.
Like that book right there, thank you. That book was so good. And also, he was also the same guy who created the Red Box.
Yep.
So anytime you go to Walmart and you see those boxes, there you go. It's Mark that you can thank for that. I would have been assuming on the creative things, but here's another caveat I wanted to discuss with Mark. Mark is one of those guys, and he found out later on when Reed and them wanted him to stay, he's a starter.
Yep. I read this one.
That's their job. He's a starter. He's that guy that goes in, builds the business for you, gets all the who, what, where, why, when, how, if, and all that other stuff running, and then hands it off to you. That's what Mark does. And then some of you out there, that's your thing, right? Some of you are not meant to be hands-on, this and the other. It's not for you. It's meant for you to help out as much as you can and then fuck off. Let us do what we need to do so you can go off and go do whatever you're gonna do. And that happens.
Right.
I see that happens a lot. Like, I'll give you one more person and I'll give you another guy that's gonna blow your mind. Another person that started building their successes pretty later on in life was Sam Walton. He has a book called Made in America. If you notice, Sam had always been in the retail business of some sort, always. So
Right.
Walmart just come along. It's like early on. If I'm not mistaken, Sam was actually 45 years old when the first Walmart came about. And Walmart came about, and I believe when did he actually start it? I think it was it, 1962. So Walmart was founded in the 60s. But you would think that Walmart is like a 100-year-old store, and it's not.
Right.
Matter of fact, it's not at all. So, and they started the first one in Rogers, Arkansas. But then they would actually go around and he was in Sam's helicopter looking for different plots of land, build another one. And not only that, but the biggest thing that I took from Sam Walton wasn't its business acumen. It wasn't that, which we all know is pretty awesome. It got Sam's Club, which is a pretty great story. I like it. The thing that separates to me Sam from every other business person that I've read about, billionaire that I read about, was this. Sam included his family in everything he did. There was nothing about Walmart that his family was not there on the ground level for. Everything. Now, later on, certain members of his family went off to go do other things, but everybody had to play a part in Walmart. So as much as we can sit and talk about business and who was a billionaire, oh, and another thing, he didn't become a billionaire until the company went public. Once the company went public, that's when he became a billionaire, which is why they tell you that some of the fastest ways to become rich in America is either through real estate or the stock market. Just saying. But reading those things and understanding that aspect, that was another reason why, even with what you and I are doing, I have my son included in all of it. I make him watch everything that we do. Majority of the books that I read, my son doesn't like to read. So I'll tell him about the books that I read. So we'll go on it from that standpoint. But whatever your dream goal or aspirations, even problems are, let your kids know what's going on as well. That's the biggest thing that I've learned from reading Sam Walton's book. Please, sir, go ahead.
So to follow up, I'm jumping back to Randolph from Netflix. One of the things I found that was fascinating regarding him was they hit a crossroads, like in terms of growth. Like when you have these big major companies, a lot of times they'll grow to a level of profitability and then they can't break through. So it'll be like our wildest dreams. They're making so much money, it's fulfilling our wildest dreams. But they're like, this is big. This is a big company we're trying to take public. We got to break past, 10 million or whatever. And so one of the things is Randolph actually he took a demotion in his own company because he realized that he needed to put people that were better equipped to be successful in his place so that they can get past it. That comes from experience. Oh, no.
Reed called him into the office and told him, I need you to step down.
Yep.
So it wasn't like he saw like, oh my gosh, well, these people are way better than me. No, he was forced to step down to let somebody else take over.
And the thing about it was,
later on,
he had the humility at some point because they could have made that messy. Like he could have made that really, like that entire thing could have been really messy. And so they pushed him out, but it was to grow the company. And eventually they hit the success. One book I have, I don't know if have you ever read Why Smart Executives Fail? By Sidney Finkelstein. I read this. So I'm going to put it on the screen here in a second.
Okay.
I read that book, I think when I had first got my shelter, when I was first running my residential youth shelter. And it was my first management job outside of radio. Like college radio, I was a station manager or whatnot, but it wasn't the same. Where I had staff reporting to me 24/7 across 3 different shifts, multiple staff and whatnot. And I had to sit down and read this book because when you first take over as a supervisor, one of the things you don't realize is you feel like a failure for most of the time because you don't know what you're doing, and you're not only navigating your learning process, but you're trying to walk your staff through their own internal learning process. And at the same time, you are analyzing whether they're built to do this. And so you have a lot of reckonings internally as somebody who manages people. And this book helped me through because it showed me that I don't have to be a success or a natural right out the gate. You have to learn how to manage, how to supervise. The skills that got me here, what we just mentioned, skills that got me here, they'll keep me in the seat, but they'll also keep me from progressing forward too. So I need to add more stuff to my toolkit. And so this book taught me about delegation, taught me about follow-up, taught me about that concept of embracing the fail and learning how to fail as a supervisor so that I could be successful. And also where to draw my red line, because I'll get into all the mess. The person that ended up becoming my direct supervisor was the person that they used me to replace. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so I'm being supervised by somebody who hates my guts because I replaced her. And it taught me how to draw my red line in the sand and know when this opportunity that I fought so hard for was no longer a vehicle for my success and when to move on.
Right.
And pivot away. So this book was instrumental in that piece of it. And like I said, it taught me that I didn't need to know everything out the gate.
Right.
That's something that's important. And a lot of times, one of the things that's the specific type of hell about learning is the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Yeah.
And that can be torturous because you feel like I've learned all this stuff and I should be at this level. Why am I doubting what I know? Well, you're doubting what you know because you waded out to the edge of the water and you see how far the ocean is and you got intimidated.
Right.
And not understanding that there's a whole nother world on the other side of that ocean. You just got to get through the ocean. So that's the hardest part about the learning thing. And that was a hard part about being in charge for the first time. Because I had all these illusions about what I'm going to do as a supervisor and I'm going to change the world and how I'm going to be all this different. And I did do some things differently and it did help me out. But I had to learn the basics of the managing and delegating stuff. And I had to embrace the failure along the way. That was the piece. And so that was the book that got me through. It's called Why Smart Executives Fail. So
No, I like that. I think that looking at that perspective and listening to that makes a whole lot of sense too, because it humbles you. Force and humility, man. Those are the two things that will either build you up or tear you down. And again, you can have hubris build you up too. That can happen. But understanding where you are in certain aspects or whatever, and being true to yourself, I think in general, one of the things that you said which sparked this idea that one of my employees said to me, and this was actually recently, she said, I asked her a question. The question was, I said, you've worked at a lot of different places. She said, yes. I said, what is it that makes, because she said, you're an amazing boss. I said, okay, thank you. But what makes me amazing? Like, what is it that I'm doing that I can keep doing? And she sent me this. True to nature, I very much appreciate this individual. But she said to me, she wasn't able to tell me right then and there. She said, you mind if I get back with you on that? I said, perfect. So the very next day, I'm sitting out to dinner eating, and she sends this and says, it's a meme, and then she goes on to explain. She says, when I talk to managers, I get the feeling that they are important. When I talk to leaders, I get the feeling that I am important. And one of my coaching styles, not just coaching, but leadership, because however you are, however you read, and one of the things that she said to me was, when I talk to you about certain things, you're always bigging me up. Like you make me feel good about myself and about being here. Even if I don't know something, you challenge me to want to get better. Not just that, but if we have meetings at the store, I would tell her, hey, come on, I want you to be involved. And you know who I'm talking about. I'll involve her in those meetings too, because I'm like, I want you to grow. Like, I don't want to keep you here forever.
Right.
So if I can impart some wisdom to you that will get you to go on and create some other successes of your own, then that's wonderful. And for the audience listening, she's Latina. So I'm like, man, I would love for your successes to come from a small business, but I also see you doing some pretty amazing things yourself. And she said, whenever I talk to you, I feel like I'm about to learn something amazing. So I made sure that she had a pen and paper so we could write down all these different tools, tips, and strategies and these fundamental philosophies. And I think that when you work with people,
Right.
it feels a whole lot different when I know that you've been there and done that. See, it doesn't feel, it don't hit the same if I know that you just read that in a book, but you've never lived it. If I'm talking to people about money and I'm talking about making 5,000 a month or 10,000 a month or 20,000 a month, I can talk about that because I've done it. Not just done it, doing it. So you don't have to listen to me. Matter of fact, I tell people all the time, like as I'm looking at the our audience on this thing or whatever, it's 0. I don't give a fuck if there's nobody here. That's not my job. My job is to give you the information. I can always refer you, hey, go watch the second episode of Trial and Error. My job is to give you the information. Now, Bryon, your job is to make sure that they get here. You know what I'm saying? Like, and again, we all know what our jobs are. And I think that when you do who and what you are, it doesn't matter. People will eventually show up. Don't worry about it. Like I tell my son all the time, number 1, stay calm. Number 2, ask for help. Number 3, work as if nobody's coming to save you. Work, because when people do show up, they're going to ask, what did you do? What have you done? So that I can piggyback right off of what you already got going on. If somebody wants to sponsor us and they're like, hey, Bryon, Phil, you guys are a pretty cool couple. Not business-wise, whatever. You guys are like an amazing duo. I like how you guys are doing this. We love to sponsor this and the other, or we love to do this and the other. Awesome. But we both know I know where my lane is, and I also know where yours is. And it's not the fact that we can't learn each other's things. It's just that I got 2 hands. I got 2. There's not much. I'm left-handed, so there's not much I can do with my left hand. But then, you know what? There's some things I cannot do with my left hand that I have to do with my right. Which is crazy to think about that because my dominant is left. But there's certain aspects of my hands that I can't do. I have to have my right hand to do it. When it comes to this part of this, you, my friend, are my proverbial right hand. Just like I would be yours from a different standpoint. And I think understanding what gets us from point A to point B, that's all you need. With understanding that, and it's easier, like my buddy Andelia and I talked about, it's easier when you're going through the shit with somebody else. When you're in the trenches and you're getting your ass handed to you, it feels good to know that you're not by yourself.
Right.
Go ahead, though, sir.
So one of the things is, because I mentioned my red line with that job specifically was I'm sitting there with my supervisor. After I told my boss, like, I'm not going to be supervised by her. I'm just not, it's not going to work. Just not going to work. She's not going to be my boss. She's like, I understand. We just need you. Okay, whatever. She put me in the office, and I had a staff that was pretty brand new. He's brand new to childcare and brand new to teenagers. He's a young kid. And I'm coaching him through this. And he ended up becoming one of my strongest staff early in the game. She pulled me into her office to supervise me and said, well, sometimes you just got to tell your staff, you suck, you suck, you suck, you suck until they quit. And
Wow.
I said, that's not my management style. And nor will I ever embrace that management style.
Right.
Because if you're here, my job is to develop you. So if I'm telling him he sucks every single day, that means that I suck as a manager,
Yep.
as a supervisor, because I'm not putting in the time to develop him. And that's not what my style is. And I learned that was one of my red lines early on. I drew it in the sand. Now, I was still new at this. And so when you're new at something, you don't really have your boundaries set up. But that was my first hard boundary. I said, I don't supervise like that. And I got written up for it. I said, I'm not going to tell this staff member that they suck until they quit. That's not developing. That's not what the role is.
No, that's actually harassment and bullying.
Right. And
which is actually a lawsuit.
Right. And long story short, right, the last day on that job before I moved to a different management job, I had to go in and almost save her from getting attacked by a kid that she had been barking at, yelling at, and all this other stuff. And I had to go in and de-escalate this kid, get it back under control, didn't have to put hands on him or anything, and just guided him out. And she's like, I need you to teach your staff that. I said, I do. You don't know how to manage that to get that result out of them. That's not my fault. One of the things I learned, because you were talking about the concept of leadership, and I'll be remiss if I didn't mention this, and I say it all the time, people get sick of me saying this. A lot of people don't understand that leadership is a service. Some people just want to be in charge.
Yeah.
And when you understand that leadership is a gift that you're taking on, you're bearing the brunt of the pressure to lead people to the destination where they need to be. You're out front. You're taking it. A lot of people want to chase leadership. I talk to a lot of young brothers that do this. Well, I want to be a leader. I'm a leader. What are you willing to give of yourself to be a leader instead of expecting people to just submit to you?
Right.
That's not leading. And so a lot of times people don't understand that concept of leadership and service. They just want to be the boss of somebody.
Yep.
There are plenty of people that can be the boss of somebody. Doesn't necessarily make you a leader.
Not at all.
One of the things I want to throw out here, audience, and we can't always count on this counter at the top because it's wrong sometimes. It's wrong often. That little zero up there. Sometimes people are watching, it doesn't even register them. I learned that the hard way. One thing I want to put out there, y'all, if you're listening to the content and enjoying where me and Fearless are going and stuff, and you're looking for a joint coaching session, we're going to be offering that up. You're going to start seeing posts for that. Jump in and schedule that time, because it's an opportunity for you to get coached by somebody who understands the business side of the internet and how to start building your brand and the technical side. Plus, you're getting Fearless, who understands what you need to be and how to build yourself up to be the person that you want to be. And so you're getting a two-headed monster here. And it'll be this format. You get two coaches, and it's a structured problem-solving session. So you're going to start seeing that stuff. You're going to start seeing links for that pop up. Get on it, because we're not going to do a heck of a whole lot of them to start out with. And I'm going to tell you, whatever the price is going up.
So I think that what we were discussing before is the coaching itself will be separate, however, from what we're doing here. Whenever we do lives, However, we'll have our stuff that we talk about, but then we can also have those times, hopefully during the week too, that live coaching, trial and error coaching type thing, and that will be for free. Tell us your, dream, goal, aspiration, problem, whatever it may be. Throw it out. We can give you a real quick this and the other, nothing too in depth, whatever,
Right.
but just so you can see exactly what we do. I'm a huge proponent in showing my work before you pay for it. However, and Bryon is the same exact way. I would rather you see exactly how I work or how we work before you give us anything. So again, if you want that, and you say, you know what, let me hold off on paying. Cool, that's what's up. But this is how we'll do it. But it'll be a real quick, I'd say like maybe a 5-10 minute synopsis type thing. Go from there. And then go. Now, if we don't have anybody else, your time is our time.
Right.
Then we can have some fun with it and dig deep. And personally, I love that. So the deeper we go, the more reframing I can do and the more I can help build your ass up. And I tell you, put a warning up. Bryon, put up a warning.
Okay.
Create a warning, put it up, because I want to warn people before we do this, before I say,
Hold on a second. So you can take a look at it.
not a problem, sir. I got the Jeopardy music playing in my head. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to have the same thing. Like, oh, there it is. That's cool. Yeah. Okay. Here's, but now I'm talking about a red one. I want a red. Look, can you make that red? Make that red. Let's make it red and white lettering, red stuff, because it's going to stick out more. Just put a warning, because what I'm about to say, it needs a warning.
All right, that's going to be a little bit harder.
All right, man.
It's tied to our layouts.
Time for our layouts?
Yeah, the colors.
How'd you
The
do
colors, I found it online and shared the screen.
Okay, find a warning and share the screen.
Okay.
Technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. I'm getting trial and error. This is our first time actually doing this, and now you guys can. I'm on.
All right, I got to find one.
Man.
All right, let's see if I can get that to be on the big screen.
Yeah, I just need a red warning.
All right.
And I think I want to start doing that too. So you have to teach me how to do that so I can just pop it up. There you go. That works too. Thank you. And saying that we have to have a warning, and I tell you this. The reason why we have to have a warning is very simple. I need to warn you of how you're going to feel when you're done talking to me. Now, you may be thinking that this is that hubris that I was talking about. That's not what this is. This is years of knowing how when you build a person up, the type of stuff that happens in them is crazy. So I'm warning you now, when we start working with you, it is a euphoric feeling. When we're done, you're going to think that you can accomplish anything. Some of you're going to go on to do some amazing things. Others, you probably need a few doses, okay, in order for this thing to work. So I'm just telling you, that first iteration, I promise you, you are going to feel like you're walking on cloud 9 mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Most of the time, I'm going to break your ass down, but then I'm going to build you back up piece by piece. And I promise you, it will be an experience. That there's not much that you can guarantee in life besides taxes and death.
Right.
I promise you.
All right.
Come on down. That's all I got to say. Come on down. Bring me your dreams, goals, aspirations, problems. I don't care. I guarantee you we'll get that shit knocked out. Or at least we will reframe it enough to get you going. Now, business-wise, Bryon, I have to get you into that one. I'm an entrepreneur myself, but this is mainly what I focus on is reframing and perspective work. Bryon's the guy that I go to if and when I need that extra level of, hey man, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. What do I need to be doing? What's the ABC? What's the 1, 2, 3 of getting this message out?
Yeah.
That's my guy there. It's like, you need to do one right quick.
I would almost say the way I would phrase it is, I'm the initiation guy, you're the implementation guy.
Left, you need them.
A lot of times you show up, you come in and get your consulting session, you feel like you're on cloud nine and everything. You aren't prepared for the opportunity that you're about to face. And sometimes when you aren't prepared for an opportunity, you don't know how to act when the opportunity shows up. You don't know how to take the right action.
Oh, no.
And so
No.
a lot of times it's going to take a few sessions and a few times of sitting down and talking to you to prepare you so that you know what the opportunity looks like before it shows up. What did Common say? Opportunity knocks, but he didn't call before he came. Sometimes you ain't prepared for the opportunity when it shows up on your doorstep. And so my part is to get you to understand what that opportunity is and to take your first couple of steps. So now you have the opportunity. How do you implement this and systematize this and make this a repeating, ongoing process so that you can build success into what you're doing? And he can give you that framework. And so that's what our pitch is. That's what we're talking about. So we're going to jump back into it and finish out here.
I can dig it, man.
So one of the things is we're talking about leadership and leadership being a service. And a lot of times, one of the things that you have to fail, and it's one of those things that I didn't necessarily grow up like this, but I see a lot of my peers grew up like this. See a lot of kids that came up after us grew up like this, where they are insulated from their failures. Their parents make every effort, and I'm guilty of it too. Sometimes you make every effort as a protective parent to make sure that they don't have to experience some of those harsh realities and failures, and you try to blunt them, and that doesn't necessarily help them out. You have to stop avoiding failing. You cannot let that be your built-in excuse. You will find out. Go do it. Fail at it. Come back to me.
Okay, so if you don't mind, I like to revisit on a story. And this is the one that I was alluding to earlier. There's a gentleman by the name of Maxie Filer. Okay. Maxie was out of Compton, California in the late 1960s. Maxie was inspired by the civil rights movement, the death of King and Malcolm, and there's so much turmoil and carnage. And he wanted to become involved in it, and he didn't know how. But he always had this propensity for law. Maybe you should go to law school, right? And that's what he does. So in 1966, 67, which one, he takes a California bar exam for the very first time, and he fails.
Mm-hmm.
Not that big of a deal because the California State Bar exam out of all 50 states is the hardest.
So I'm looking at New York, I'm looking at Florida, I'm looking at Texas, Arkansas. Wow, okay.
Arkansas is actually it actually was. I don't know if it is still today, but it was. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know where New York was, but because I could be wrong, but I don't think that it was even in the top 5 of the hardest tests. But so I'm sitting there rambling or whatever. So anyway, so he takes it for the first time, 1966 or 67, and he fails. Now, if you remember, in 1965, you have the Watts riots. He's in Compton, California. If you know anything about the hub and dub, they're right next door to each other. That's the equivalent of Bellevue having a race problem or having a riot and you're right next door in South Omaha.
Right.
It's like it's right there. Like you can hear it, you can see it, it's right there. So that's how close Compton and Watts are to each other. It's like a street that divides them. Anyway, you have the race stuff, you have all kinds of stuff going on, and he fails his test, right? From the 1960s to the 70s, he fails. From the 70s into the 80s, he takes that test every year. He fails. Get that? Every year, twice a year, it fails. From the 80s to the 90s, it fails. That's it until about 1992. When he's been taking the test for 25 years. 25 years. He took that test 48 times. He was 37 years old when he took the California State Bar exam for the very first time. 37. He didn't pass it until he was 66. So it's easy for us to sit and say, oh, just keep going. Again, I reframe everything. That's what I do. So I'm going to help people to reframe. From now on, the bench that we stand on when it comes to success and failure are based on these key principles. How long it takes, how many tries it takes. That's it. If you're not in 5 years to your dream, goal, or aspiration, then it's not probably worth it. If you're not willing to give a life sentence to your dream, not worth it. The other thing is, how many times did you try?
Right.
Everything you do, I have to give it at least 48 tries. 48. That's it. 48 tries. Now, listen to what I'm telling you. You're going to fail several times within that 48. But here's the thing. Most of the time, you only got to get it once. You got to get it right one time. That's it.
Right.
Just one. 2 out of the 7 kids, preschool, elementary, junior college, law college, they became lawyers before their father did. Their father ended up clerking for his own children. So when you sit down and talk about being humble, like, bro, I don't think there's anything that's more humble that will break you down faster than that right there.
Right.
And he still was proud of his children, no matter how it happened, no matter what happened. So, again, like I said, man, people, when we watch ourselves consistently, and we're always thinking that nobody's paying attention to what we're doing. But if you got kids, they're always paying attention.
Right.
Always. My son is 12 years old, and if you ask him what he wants to be, he'll tell you he wants to be a therapist. I said, son, that's a very peculiar thing for a 12-year-old to want to be. And why do you want to be a therapist out of anything else you could pick? And you know what his response was? He said, because that's what I see you doing with people. So I'm like, that's beautiful, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I told him, I'm like, honey, I'm not a therapist. He said, I know, but that's what I want to be. Perfect. That works. So I'll do whatever I can to support that. And I tell him, honey, if you get to a place where that's not what you want to do anymore, that's okay too. But
Right.
the fact that you want to grow up to help people, son, that is a beautiful calling to have. Not everybody's going to have you.
Right.
So, but I wanted to share that story of this 25-48, 25 years to a dream, goal, or aspiration that you don't even know what's going to happen. Well, here's another really cool thing about that story. He was asked in one of his last interviews, you took that test for 25 years. You spent tens of thousands of dollars paying for testing fees. They were, whatever they were holding those tests, That's where he went to go do it. At what time would you have stopped taking that test? And his answer that everything I do, I put into that. He said, I would have taken it to my dying day. I would have never stopped. How many people have taken a California State Bar exam, and not just a bad bar exam, any exam or anything, and fucking quit? You could have been one more step away from making it.
Yeah.
That one more step, and you would have had it. You would have had it. I went through the same thing with my son is in karate. He just graduated, just got his black belt. I'm so proud of him. And there was a kid in his class, and his parents pulled him out into class because they couldn't afford to pay for his last camp, and then for his gi, for everything else, it was gonna probably be $1,000, something like that. So the lady left, and I asked her son before they left. I said, "Hey, does your son want to go on and get his black belt?" Because he was only one belt away. And she's like, "No, I just want to be done with this." So I asked him before he got in the car. I said, "Hey, do you want to get your black belt? Do you want to stay for that?" And he looked at his mom and said, "Yes, I do. I want to work because I worked hard at that. I want to work. I want to get that black belt, and then we can quit." She said, "Well, we'll talk about it in the car." So they left. The first thing I did was I walked into the dojo, took out my credit card, gave it to the lady to pay for his class so he can go in. It's about $250. They didn't have the money. Not a problem. I'll pay for it. I got the money. Right?
Right.
So she's like, "Oh my God, that is so nice." The lady, she swiped it. Cool. I go back to my car. 5 minutes later, I get a call from the dojo stating, "Hey, she went ahead and just pulled him out." I said, "Did you tell her that somebody paid anonymously?" I didn't tell her it was me. Anonymously paid for him to stay in and get what he started. She said, "I did tell her that." And she said, "No, thank you. She'd rather just pull him out." What she doesn't understand, and the dojo refunded me back my money. What that parent doesn't understand is that's going to stay with that young man for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
For the rest of his life. Number one, that you can just quit shit. Number two, that you can quit right at the precipice. Right at the precipice of fucking achieving something that most don't achieve.
Right.
He's been in karate for 3, 4, almost 5 years. And right before he gets there, you snatch it from him. So what does that teach? And not only that, but your hubris. Not humility, because you ain't humble by that. Your hubris, your pride, your ego. Refuse to accept fucking help.
No.
The second thing I teach my son, for number one, stay calm. Number two, ask for help. Number three, work as if nobody's coming to save you. Because I was sure what was going on. Matter of fact, I got the money. I'll pay for it. No, thank you. So that's that shit that I'm talking about, bro. That's what, to me, what this whole trial and error show, the picture going kind of thing is about. It's about, bro, some of you are already at the precipice of where you want to be. You're already there. You just got to work to take a couple more steps. I know you're fucking tired, but we're here. We're here to help. So if you heard this message and you still gave up, then fuck you. You deserve it. That's the
Yeah, it sounded like he wasn't done. She was done.
She was done. So for our children, you gotta step up. You think I'm taking that boy to karate 3 times a week where I had other shit that I wanted to go do? Do you think that I like paying $50 here, $275 here per month, plus testing fees, plus materials for the stuff that you're gonna need? His bill was like another 150. So you don't think I wanted to stop? I told my son when we started, you can quit when you bring on the black belt. As soon as you bring on that black belt, you can quit. That's what I told him. As a matter of fact, she would say, I think we were about a year or two in. He said, Dad, I'm done. I'm quitting. I said, okay, we can quit. He said, so I don't have to go? No, you ain't got to go. You're going. You just told me. I just have one question. Where's that belt at? He said, what? Oh. So I'm going. And until I see that belt, you're going. Period. So sometimes, and I look at the same thing with our clients. Motherfucker, it's time to work. We're not, this isn't not the saying that we can sit around talking. You've done enough talking. It's time to move. It's time to work. Like my client, what do we say? It's to help implement that next step.
Yep.
Where you at? Where do we need to get to? That's it. Everything that we do is going to be based on realistic coaching. Where are you at right now? Who's your support system? Who's your support? Now you do. Let's go. If I had to call you in the middle of the night to wake your goofy ass up because you got work to do, well, I'm calling you. Especially if you need to. Come on, man. Let's go.
The thing about it is, I don't know if the audience knows, I'm co-owner of a basketball training business. I don't do the training, but I do some of the programming and a lot of the behind the scenes part.
Yeah.
And one of the things is we got kids that are going to be going to college that have earned their scholarships. We got kids that coach is probably going to be at the NBA draft this year. Fingers crossed. One of the things that a lot of these parents don't understand is the pathway to getting to that level where you're going to college and people are actually going to put money in your pocket to play ball, or making it through college and now the big leagues want to put money in your pocket. The kids are the ones that push that action.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are getting their parents up, getting them saying, I got practice in the morning. The separation between the parents that lock in and commit to it and encourage their kids to commit to it, and then the kids end up pushing the action. There's a difference between those kids and the ones that, they just want to be the top player and that's it, but they don't want to work for it. The line is set because as you get towards the top, the talent levels out. And so where the talent might be stair steps like this, where there's a gap between the talent, as you work your way up to the top, the talent separation is like this. And so the top part of it is the kids that grind and the parents that commit to it, and then the parents that don't commit to that grind and don't support their kids that committing to that grind. And so I get it. And a lot of times parents are like, well, we're seeing results, but they're not fast enough. Okay, fine. But then they don't commit to another grind. They go and do something completely different. And then they come back to us and they're like, well, and we're sitting there like, your kids regressed. They've gone backwards. What have y'all been doing? Well, we want to change it up.
Yeah, no.
The grind still exists. It always exists. There are very few kids that have that level of talent where it's so undeniable, no matter what you put in front of them, no matter what they experience, they're going to make it to that top level. That is not most kids. A lot of our best kids are the ones that work the hardest. The top kids work the hardest. A lot of people don't understand that. And so when you make that level of commitment, it's a full commitment to wherever the destination is. Imagine planning a road trip and you got your hotel booked, and then 20 miles outside of where your hotel is, you're like, you know what, I'm done.
Right.
What are you gonna do? You gonna drive back? Or you gonna go finish out your mission?
Yeah. And that's
a lot of people treat their dreams like this.
Yeah. That's all I'm saying, bro, is that Like it's either all or nothing. And just like leader, not management, but leadership, it starts with you. You know what I'm saying? Think about that. You can manage your time, if you will, your energy, this and the other. But leadership, that starts within.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you suck as a person, think about how you're going to treat other people. Think about how that leadership's going to work out. And like you said before, and I love you, you said that leadership is a service. I've never heard that before. And I think that's the reason why it means so much to me to step up. There's a series of books called The 1 Minute Manager by Kenneth something or whatever. You know what I'm talking about, right? But it also has a 1 minute, 1 minute, hold on. Is it the one, God damn, 1 minute, okay, by Ken Blanchard.
Yep, it's
The
all
1
franchise.
Minute Manager. Huh? Yeah, it's all franchise. But like, dude, I love that book. Like, I love those books in general. And one of the things that I learned about that is still stuff that I use to this day, which is there was this guy that I went to this course once, and the Small Business Administration runs these courses, and most of the time they're free.
Right.
It's crazy how many people don't show up for them. So there was this guy who came in, and he does programs or whatever, and that's where I learned that 22% of major company out there, the government has to give 22% of its major contracts to small businesses, right? And I think that happens like every February to show. But this is a guy who helps you to write up whatever that proposal is going to be, right? Anything that you see that says .gov is free. Anything. So if you have a politician, senator, congressman, whomever, and their email says .gov, if you ask them to do something for you, it's free. So just always remember that. So, but this guy, he helps you write these grants and all this stuff for free. So he was working with this company, and he was getting them a $2 million pay grant or whatever for their business stuff, right? Something happened where this guy pussyfooted around and procrastinated, and he was late dropping off the submission to the post office. It cost this company $2 million. $2 million, right? This guy, hand in hand, goes to them and has to explain to them what happened, but what he did. And he said that the company looked at him, their representative looked at him, said, "What do you do next time?" And he said, "Next time I follow through on everything before it's even due." Good.
Right.
That's it. And so he apologized and told them, "I'll do anything that you need me to do, but I am so sorry." Because the mess up was on him. And that's how they dealt with it. And he said from that point on, he never missed a deadline on anything, whether it's business or in life. Never. Because he understood at that point just how serious your procrastination can get you, right?
Right.
Fast forward some years later, something similar happens to me. And I'm working with a young man. He messes up on something that I paid him for, right? So I pay him to do a job. He does the job, but it's not as we talked about because I don't know this work. He knows this work, but I don't. So if you show me something, I'm going to say yay or nay. He showed me, okay, this is what it's going to look like. I said, okay, so this is what it's going to look like. Yes, perfect. I'm off doing my own thing. My buddy hits me up and shows me what he did. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, is he going to make those lower? Because that's way up on top.
Right.
And the guy's like, no, that's what you said. I said, no. And I sent him the email showing like, no, you said it would be at this line. Why would you put that right next to our open sign? So I'm basically, I'm going in on this dude because we're about to open our business. The sign is like way off, and this dude's making every excuse, every rationale that he possibly can, except for saying, hey, bro, I'm sorry. I messed up. How can I make this right?
Right.
If he would have said that, Bryon, I would have shut up. I'd have said, thank you for taking accountability. We'll figure something out. We'll just go from here. And it been done.
Right.
Do you realize how much money this man that I'd actually spent paying other people to do something I could have paid him to do?
Right.
He lost all that money because he couldn't accept ownership, couldn't take responsibility or accountability for fucking something up. All you had to say was, hey man, my fault.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. How can I make this right? Never heard it. So again, if you mess up on something, admit your mistake, apologize for it, offer some type of retribution. And here's the thing, if you can't give it, just be open, keep your hand up.
Right.
Keep your hand up. Ask for help. If you don't understand something, how is it that your teacher's gonna know that you don't know it if you don't say something? How can you get extra credit to build your grade up if you don't ask anybody?
If you don't ask nobody, right? I said, if you don't ask anybody, right? Well,
yeah, go ahead. So that's what I teach to my sons. These principles in which I tell that I'm always alluding to, these are things that we actually do on a daily basis. This isn't some stuff that I talk about because it sounds good. It's stuff that you actually have to live by. Because when you live, it does something different to you. When you know what you are, because you know what you stand on, bro, I assure you, it does something different. And that's why I told you to put that warning up, because it's going to do something different to you. You stand a little different. You look at people a little differently. Right. And I'm not saying that I don't fall off that proverbial horse, because I do. I mess up. I am fallible just like everybody else. But I know who and what I stand for. My character is still my character. My principles are still my principles. Right? And I can stand on that. Whether I'm homeless or whether I got money, I'm still the same dude. You know what I mean? So those principles I was talking about, that's the shit that I teach to my 12-year-old kid. I've been teaching him this since he was a young type. He still is, but it's ingrained in him.
So a lot we were talking about is that, one, it's he could have taken the lesson by just owning the mistake. And he could have, like, there was a lesson in owning the mistake, and he didn't want to take that route.
And I'm always running tests. I'm always running tests on people, constantly. I'm a life coach. That's what I do. I have to run them. I need to make sure that you understand what we're talking about. That in my private practice or whatever, that's why I charge people so much. If I didn't charge you as much as I do, I could be like, oh, well, yeah, it's okay. No, I'm gonna crack your ass because I need to know that you understand that as I'm giving you this information, this ain't for play.
Right.
You're not gonna pay a gym membership $1,000 a month to go once a month. You're gonna pay them $1,000 a month to be there every day.
Right.
Especially if you gotta pay it 3 months in advance. So I'm saying, go ahead.
Well, it's the idea they're paying for the outcomes, but a lot of times people experience that failure and the first thing they want to do is quit. And I've been there. And sometimes that's the worst thing you can do. Other times you got to realize okay, I'm trying this thing and I'm bumping my head against the wall and it's starting to hurt. Do I need to try a different angle? Do I need to try a different approach? Is this my vehicle for success? A lot of times people don't really, that's what the failure teaches you. Is this an appropriate vehicle for your success? Because Colonel Sanders, Harlan Sanders, what if he picked pork chops as the first thing? That might not have been his vehicle for success. So the failure teaches you what the right vehicle for your success is. And a lot of people don't understand that. That's why the failure is so important up front.
Let me say one more thing too, though. One of the things that I ask him is, do you have a mentor? Do you have a tribe? Do you have a community? Who and where is your support system?
Right.
That's why that is so important, because here's the thing. It's not that you can't do it by yourself, because you can. It just sucks when you do it alone. And I'm not necessarily saying that all mentors or coaches are going to charge you, because some of them won't. I'm not saying that all tribes or communities are going to need you to put up some type of monetary fund for that support, because some don't.
Right.
All I'm telling you is find one that works for you. If it's free, then make sure that you invest heavily in what that means. If it costs, invest in it. Who gives a shit, especially if it's giving you what you currently do not have.
Right.
If it's giving you something that you don't have, then invest in it, regardless of how much it is, because that investment may be worth more than what you're paying. Just trying to figure that out. It's not always free. And like my good friend used to tell me, you get exactly what you paid for. If you think about dating, for instance, I always go back to relationships. If you look at dating, a lot of those free sites, yeah, you get every run in the mill that comes with it. It's a cyber bar. But as with certain bars that you go to in real life, that you got to pay to get in there. You know what I'm saying? You have to have a membership. You have to have those, what are they at the golf clubs? What are those called?
Oh, membership
to get in?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, same thing. Matter of fact, Costco, Sam's. I'm just saying there's a different type of people that go in there.
Right.
People that shop at Walmart are not the same people that shop at Hy-Vee or Target. You're going to get a totally different type of people. In fact, Bakers, Target, Hy-Vee charge more than Walmart. Family Fare sometimes charges more than Walmart, but I'll still go to Family Fare. I'll still go to Hy-Vee. I'll still go to Target. I'll still go to Bakers just to avoid Walmart, because that's where all the people are. I'm just saying. So if it's free, you get what you pay for.
But the experience you want.
Say what?
You pay for the experience you want.
So when we are telling you that we charge, yes, we do. Because we're trying to make sure that you get the experience that you're looking for. It's not the result. It's the experience. Because the result's all on you. If you do something, great. If you don't, cool. When we charge you, you still paid for it. So what you choose to do at that point, that's on you. But we're going to give you everything you need to get you going. Everything. But the fact of putting one foot in front of the other, that's going to be on you. That's your thing, and that's where I leave it.
So, and what you're paying for is, me and Fearless know this, there are going to be people online that will absolutely sell you high ticket. They never launched a business. They've never had a successful business. They never coached anybody to success. They don't have the skin in the game, nor do they have the experience. What they're going to tell you is something that they heard somebody else say, or something that they read somewhere, but not something that they did. You're getting with us are guys that have gone out and actually done stuff and accomplished things and have failed at some things and been successful at some things. And so you're actually getting the honest, clarity, straight up experience with it. If you want that, there's plenty of avenues for that. If you want to mess with us, understand that you're getting that grizzled experience that comes from failing at time and not being successful,
Nice.
but also some major wins. So that's what we're offering. Let me set it up for next time, next week, Tuesday at 1. Tune into the live stream to talk about, because we hinted about this, and this is probably a good natural ending point on this one. Start talking about it when to pivot off what your goal is and pivot into something else. In the pivot in business, that's what we're going to talk about next week. So tune in, and we hope to see you here. I'm Bryon.
And if we don't, we'll get you eventually.
Yeah. I'm Bryon.
I'm Fearless.